The temperature hit 94 degrees Fahrenheit by 8:47 p.m. on July 21, 1998. In Grants Pass, Oregon, population 23,003. A logging town nestled in the Rogue River Valley where Douglas firs cast long shadows across Highway 199. The air smelled of dry pine needles and gasoline from the Chevron station on 6th Street, where Officer Mark Higgins, 25, bought a Mountain Dew at 6:15 p.m., exactly 3 hours and 43 minutes before he would die. Mark tapped his wedding ring against the glass bottle as he walked back to his cruiser, a white 1996 Ford Crown Victoria with the Grants Pass Police Department seal on the door. His partner, Officer Sarah Jenkins, 28, sat in the passenger seat reviewing dispatch notes on a clipboard. Sarah had returned from maternity leave just 6 weeks earlier, her daughter Emma, now 4 months old, sleeping in a bassinet in a small house on Northeast F Street where Sarah's husband worked night shifts at the lumber mill. At 6:58 p.m., dispatch crackled. Unit 7, be advised, stolen vehicle reported. Blue 1992 Honda Accord. Oregon plate Charlie Bravo 9er 572. 2 teenage victims assaulted at Riverside Park. Vehicle taken at knife point. Mark set the Mountain Dew in the cup holder. Sarah wrote down the plate number. Neither spoke. The Honda was out there, somewhere in the grid of streets between the Rogue River and the Interstate 5 corridor, and in a town of 23,003, someone would see it. What happened in the 7 hours between that dispatch call and midnight would become Oregon's most haunting unsolved mystery. A case that would consume 2 detectives' entire careers, fill 14 cardboard evidence boxes in a climate-controlled vault, and remain cold for 25 years, until a fingerprint, a database, and an 89-year-old man's quiet confession finally closed the file. But at 6:58 p.m., Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins were just 2 officers on a summer evening shift, driving past the Dairy Queen where teenagers clustered under neon lights, past the Safeway where someone's car alarm bleated then stopped, past the darkness gathering in the valley like smoke. If you're interested in more cold case documentaries like this, please subscribe to our channel. We upload new content every week. ***. Mark Higgins wakes at 9:15 a.m. on July 21, 1998, in a 1-bedroom apartment on Jerome Prairie Road. His wife, Angela, 24, is already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and the Grants Pass Daily Courier, reading about the heat wave expected to last through the weekend. Mark showers, dresses in civilian clothes, khaki shorts, a white t-shirt, and tells Angela he'll pick up steaks for their anniversary dinner tomorrow. They've been married 2 years. Angela works as a dental hygienist at Dr. Morrison's office downtown, and she kisses Mark goodbye at 10:03 a.m., watching him walk to his silver 1994 Toyota Camry parked in the carport. Mark drives to the Grants Pass Police Department, a squat brick building on Southwest 5th Street, arriving at 10:28 a.m. for a noon shift briefing. He stops at the Josephine County Credit Union ATM and withdraws $40. He buys gas at the Shell station on 6th Street, $12.50, unleaded. The receipt, found later in his wallet, is timestamped 11:04 a.m. Sarah Jenkins wakes earlier, at 7:30 a.m., to Emma crying in the nursery. Sarah's husband, David, 31, left for his shift at Rough and Ready Lumber at 6 a.m., and Sarah is alone with the baby in a small house on Northeast F Street, a quiet block where maple trees shade the sidewalks and sprinklers tick across lawns. Sarah feeds Emma, changes her diaper, lays her down for a nap at 8:45 a.m. Sarah's mother, Patricia Whitmore, 56, arrives at 10 a.m. to babysit. Patricia will remember Sarah wearing her uniform, navy blue pants, light blue shirt with the GPPD patch on the sleeve, black utility belt with radio, handcuffs, pepper spray, and her service weapon, a Glock 22.40 caliber pistol. Emma's bottles are in the fridge, Sarah says. David will be home by midnight. Patricia nods. She kisses her daughter on the cheek. Sarah drives her white 1997 Honda Civic to the police department, parking in the employee lot at 11:42 a.m. At noon, Sergeant Lawrence Carmichael, 48, conducts roll call in the briefing room. 8 officers sit in folding chairs. Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins assigned to Unit 7, a patrol sector covering the northeast quadrant of Grants Pass from the Rogue River to the city limits. Carmichael mentions the stolen Honda from Riverside Park, describes the two teenage victims, Tyler Morrison, 16, and his girlfriend Stephanie Alcott, 15, who reported being approached by a man with a knife at 5:35 p.m. The man, described as white, late 60s, gray hair, approximately 5 feet 10 inches, wearing a green jacket and blue jeans, forced them out of the Honda and drove away eastbound on G Street. Keep an eye out, Carmichael says. Plate Charlie Bravo Niner 572. Honda Accord, blue, 92 model. Suspect is armed. Mark and Sarah log into Unit 7 at 12:34 p.m. and begin patrol. They drive through residential neighborhoods, past Allendale Park where children play on swings, past the Grants Pass Shopping Center where the parking lot shimmers with heat. At 2:15 p.m., they respond to a domestic disturbance call on Northwest Beacon Drive. A couple arguing over unpaid bills. No violence, situation resolved. At 3:50 p.m., they stop at the Chevron on 6th Street for coffee. Sarah buys a pack of Wrigley's spearmint gum. Mark buys the Mountain Dew Hill drink later. At 5:20 p.m., they eat dinner in the cruiser parked behind the Elks Lodge on Southeast 7th Street. Sandwiches from Subway, turkey on wheat for Mark, ham and Swiss for Sarah. They listen to the radio. Dispatch calls for other units, a traffic accident on Highway 199, a shoplifting report at Rite Aid. The sun dips toward the Siskiyou Mountains, casting orange light across the windshield. At 6:58 p.m., dispatch reminds all units about the stolen Honda. Mark writes the plate number on his notepad. Sarah adjusts her rearview mirror. They drive north on 6th Street, turn east on Northeast F Street, passing Sarah's house where her mother rocks Emma to sleep, and continue toward the commercial district along Highway 199. At 8:47 p.m., they see the blue Honda Accord parked at a Texaco gas station on Northeast Beacon Drive. License plate partially visible. Charlie Bravo, 9. Mark radios dispatch. Unit 7. We have visual on stolen vehicle. Charlie Bravo Niner 572. Texaco Station, Northeast Beacon Drive. Initiating traffic stop. Dispatch responds. Copy Unit 7. Be advised. Suspect armed with knife. The Honda pulls out of the Texaco and turns south on Beacon Drive. Mark activates the emergency lights. The Honda doesn't stop. It accelerates, reaching 40 miles per hour in a 35 zone, then slows, then pulls over on a dark stretch of Beacon Drive between a vacant lot and a chain-link fence surrounding a propane distribution yard. No street lights. The nearest business, a tire shop, closed at 6 p.m. Mark parks the cruiser 10 feet behind the Honda. He and Sarah step out simultaneously, doors closing with identical metallic thuds. Mark approaches the driver's side. Sarah positions herself at the rear passenger door, right hand resting on her holstered weapon, left hand holding a flashlight. It is 8:51 p.m. At 8:52 p.m., gunfire erupts. The 911 call comes at 8:54 p.m. from a woman named Denise Alvarez, 42, who lives in a house on Northeast Beacon Drive, approximately 200 yards from the traffic stop. Denise tells the dispatcher she heard 6 gunshots. Rapid, distinct, like firecrackers but deeper, and saw a car speed away with no headlights. Dispatch attempts to raise Unit 7 on the radio. No response. At 8:56 p.m., Sergeant Carmichael, monitoring dispatch from his office, orders all available units to Northeast Beacon Drive. At 8:59 p.m., Unit 4, Officers Daniel Frost, 33, and Maria Salazar, 29, arrive on scene. They find Unit 7's cruiser parked with its engine running, emergency lights flashing, driver's door open. Officer Mark Higgins lies on the pavement beside the driver's door of the abandoned Honda. 3 gunshot wounds to the chest. Officer Sarah Jenkins lies near the rear passenger door. 3 gunshot wounds to the torso. Both officers' weapons remain holstered. Frost radios dispatch at 9:01 p.m. Officer down. 2 officers down. Northeast Beacon Drive, north of the tire shop. Need ambulance. Need backup? Need everyone. His voice cracks. Salazar kneels beside Mark, checking for a pulse. None. She moves to Sarah. None. Blood pools on the asphalt, black under the flashing red and blue lights. By 9:05 p.m., 6 police cruisers converge on the scene, followed by 2 ambulances, a fire truck, and the Grants Pass Fire Department Rescue Unit. Paramedics confirm what Frost and Salazar already know. Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins are deceased. Sergeant Carmichael arrives at 9:08 p.m., sees the bodies, and immediately calls Oregon State Police Major Crimes Unit. At 9:12 p.m., he calls Grants Pass Police Chief Raymond Porter, 54, who is eating dinner at his home on Hillcrest Road. Porter drops his fork, grabs his jacket, and drives to the scene, arriving at 9:23 p.m. The scene is chaos. Radios crackling, officers shouting into cell phones, paramedics standing beside ambulances with nothing to do. Chief Porter establishes a perimeter with yellow crime scene tape, extending from the vacant lot to the propane yard to the tire shop parking lot, roughly 150 yards in all directions. He orders officers to canvass the neighborhood for witnesses. He calls the FBI field office in Medford, 30 miles south, requesting assistance. At 9:45 p.m., Detective Robert Salinas, 41, head of the Grants Pass Police Department Criminal Investigations Unit, arrives on scene. Salinas is a 15-year veteran, a former U.S. Marine, with close-cropped black hair and a measured, deliberate voice. He surveys the scene. 2 bodies, 2 weapons unfired, abandoned stolen Honda with driver's door open, Unit 7 cruiser with engine running. No shell casings visible. No witnesses except Denise Alvarez, who heard shots but saw nothing useful. Only a car fleeing without headlights, color unknown, make unknown. Salinas walks to the Honda and shines his flashlight through the open driver's door. The interior smells of cigarette smoke and gasoline. On the steering wheel, he sees a smudge, possibly a fingerprint. He calls for the evidence technician. At 10:15 p.m., Oregon State Police Crime Lab technician Laura Mendez, 36, arrives with her mobile forensic unit, a white van equipped with UV lights, fingerprint powder, evidence bags, cameras. She photographs the scene. The Honda from 8 angles, the cruiser from 6 angles, the bodies from every direction. She measures distances with a laser rangefinder. Mark's body 6.2 feet from the Honda's driver's door, Sarah's body 11.8 feet from the rear passenger door. She uses orange spray paint to mark the locations of bloodstains, creating a constellation of numbers across the pavement. Stain 1, Stain 2, Stain 3. At 11:02 p.m., Mendez dusts the Honda's steering wheel with black fingerprint powder. Under UV light, a partial print emerges, maybe 8 ridge characteristics visible, not enough for a full match but enough to try. She lifts the print with clear tape, transfers it to a white evidence card, and labels it. Evidence 1A, fingerprint, steering wheel. Honda Accord VIN 1, HGCB 7655 NA123456. At 11:30 p.m., Detective Salinas interviews Denise Alvarez in her living room. She repeats what she told the dispatcher. 6 shots, rapid succession, car speeding away without headlights. She didn't see the driver. She didn't see the officers. She called 911 immediately. Which direction did the car go? Salinas asks. South, Alvarez says. Toward Highway 199. Salinas writes this in his notebook. He thanks her and returns to the scene. By midnight, the Oregon State Medical Examiner arrives to transport the bodies. Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins are loaded into separate body bags, placed in a white van, and driven to the State Crime Lab in Portland, 250 miles north, where autopsies will be performed at 8 a.m. on July 22nd. The cause of death will be listed as multiple gunshot wounds to the chest and torso, consistent with close-range fire from a large-caliber handgun. Each officer was shot 3 times. None of the bullets passed through their bodies. All 6 rounds remained lodged in tissue, bone, and organ. The bullets, extracted during autopsy, are .45 caliber, manufactured by Winchester, consistent with a M1911 pistol or similar weapon. At 12:30 a.m. on July 22nd, Chief Porter holds a press conference in the parking lot of the police department. Television news crews from Medford and Eugene have arrived, cameras casting harsh white light across the brick building's facade. Porter reads from a prepared statement. At approximately 8:50 p.m. on July 21st, two Grants Pass police officers, Officer Mark Higgins and Officer Sarah Jenkins, were shot and killed during a traffic stop on Northeast Beacon Drive. The suspect fled the scene in an unknown vehicle. We are asking anyone with information to contact the Grants Pass Police Department immediately. A $10,000 reward is being offered for information leading to an arrest. A reporter asks, "Do you have any suspects?" Porter pauses. "We are following several leads." He does not mention the fingerprint. At 6 a.m. on July 22nd, Detective Salinas organizes a search of the area surrounding Northeast Beacon Drive. 40 volunteers, off-duty police officers, firefighters, Josephine County Sheriff's deputies, form a grid pattern, walking shoulder to shoulder through vacant lots, drainage ditches, and the forested area east of the propane yard. They are looking for shell casings, the murder weapon, anything the killer might have discarded while fleeing. The temperature reaches 88 degrees Fahrenheit by 9 a.m. Volunteers sweat through their shirts, dust sticking to their necks. Radio chatter fills the air. Grid 4, nothing. Grid 7, negative. Grid 9, found a beer can, probably unrelated. At 10:45 a.m., a volunteer named Thomas Beckett, 52, a volunteer firefighter, finds a black leather wallet in tall grass beside a drainage ditch approximately 300 yards south of the crime scene. The wallet contains a driver's license, 3 credit cards, and $47 in cash. The driver's license belongs to Gerald F. Mason, white male, date of birth January 18, 1934, 64 years old at the time of the shooting. The license lists an address in Medford, Oregon, 2847, Crater Lake Avenue, apartment 12. Beckett radios Detective Salinas. Salinas drives to the location, examines the wallet, and places it in a clear evidence bag labeled Evidence 6D Wallet, Gerald F. Mason. At 11:30 a.m., Salinas and Sergeant Carmichael drive to 2847 Crater Lake Avenue in Medford, a 2-story apartment complex with faded yellow siding and a gravel parking lot. Apartment 12 is on the 2nd floor. Salinas knocks. No answer. He knocks again. No answer. The apartment manager, a woman named Rita Schultz, 58, provides a key. Salinas and Carmichael enter. The apartment is small. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchenette, a living room with a brown couch and a television. The apartment smells of cigarette smoke. On the kitchen counter, Salinas finds a pack of Marlboro Reds, an ashtray with 3 cigarette butts, a coffee mug with dried coffee residue. In the bedroom, he finds clothes in the closet, shoes lined up neatly, a wallet, different from the one found at the scene, containing additional identification for Gerald F. Mason. But no Gerald F. Mason. Salinas interviews Rita Schultz. She says Mason has lived in apartment 12 for approximately 8 months, pays rent on time, keeps to himself. She last saw him 3 days ago, July 18th, carrying groceries up the stairs. She describes him as polite, quiet, a nice old man. Does he own a car? Salinas asks. I don't know, Schultz says. I've never seen him drive. Salinas checks the parking lot. No vehicles registered to Gerald F. Mason. He returns to the apartment and searches more thoroughly. Dresser drawers, bathroom cabinets, kitchen cupboards. He finds nothing unusual, no weapons, no drugs, no evidence of violence. But on the nightstand beside the bed, he finds a photograph. A younger Gerald Mason, maybe in his 30s, standing beside a woman and 2 children in front of a house. The back of the photograph is labeled in faded blue ink, Bakersfield, 1967. Salinas places the photograph in an evidence bag. At 2 p.m., Salinas returns to the Grants Pass Police Department and runs Gerald F. Mason's name through the Oregon DMV database, the FBI's National Crime Information Center, NCIC, and the state criminal history records. The results: driver's license valid, expires 2001, no violations, no traffic citations. Criminal history none. No arrests, no convictions, no warrants. Vehicle registration none, currently registered in Oregon. Social Security records Gerald F. Mason, born January 18, 1934, in Bakersfield, California. Last known employer: Mason's Auto Repair, Medford, Oregon, closed in 1996. Gerald F. Mason is a ghost. 64 years old, no criminal record, no car, no obvious connection to Mark Higgins or Sarah Jenkins. Just a wallet dropped in a ditch and a fingerprint on a stolen Honda steering wheel. At 4 p.m., Laura Mendez at the Oregon State Police Crime Lab runs the partial fingerprint through the Automated Fingerprint Identification System, AFIS, a database containing approximately 34 million prints from arrests, military service, and employment background checks. The system compares the 8 ridge characteristics from the Honda steering wheel to millions of stored prints, searching for a match. At 4:47 p.m., the system returns a result. No match found. Salinas receives the call at 5:02 p.m. He sits at his desk, stares at the phone, and writes in his notebook, fingerprint, no database match. Mason, no criminal history. How? On July 23, 1998, the funeral arrangements for Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins are announced. Mark's service will be held at the Grants Pass Community Church on Saturday, July 25, at 10 a.m. Sarah's service will follow at 2 p.m. at the same church. The Grants Pass community, population 23,003, is in mourning. Flags fly at half-staff. The Grants Pass Daily Courier runs front-page photographs of both officers in uniform, smiling. The headline: 2 heroes fallen. Angela Higgins, Mark's widow, gives a brief statement to the press. Mark loved this town. He loved serving this community. He died doing what he believed in. Patricia Whitmore, Sarah's mother, speaks at a candlelight vigil held at Riverside Park on the evening of July 23, attended by more than 800 people. Sarah was a daughter, a wife, a mother. She had just come back to work. She wanted to make the world safer for Emma, for all our children. And now she's gone. The vigil ends with a moment of silence. Candles flicker in the dark. The Rogue River flows past, indifferent. Detective Salinas does not attend the vigil. He is at his desk, reviewing evidence reports, searching for connections. The stolen Honda was registered to a woman named Claire Morrison, mother of teenager Tyler Morrison, one of the assault victims from Riverside Park. Salinas interviews Tyler and Stephanie Alcott again, this time in detail. Tyler describes the man who stole the car. He came out of nowhere, like he was waiting in the trees. He had a knife, maybe 6 inches long, silver blade. He said, "Get out of the car." We got out. He got in and drove away. Did he say anything else? Salinas asks. No. He just stared at us, like he was deciding something. What was he wearing? Green jacket, blue jeans. He looked old, like somebody's grandpa. Stephanie adds, he had gray hair, kind of messy, and his eyes, I don't know how to describe it, like he was looking through us, not at us. Salinas shows them a photocopy of Gerald F. Mason's driver's license photo. Is this the man? Tyler and Stephanie study the photo. Tyler nods slowly. Maybe. I think so. It was getting dark. But, yeah, that could be him. Stephanie is less certain. I don't know. Maybe is not enough for an arrest warrant. On July 25, 1998, the funerals proceed as planned. Over 1,200 people attend Mark Higgins' service, including police officers from across Oregon, Washington, and Northern California. The procession from the church to the cemetery stretches for half a mile. Patrol cars with lights flashing, motorcycles from the Blue Knights Law Enforcement Motorcycle Club, fire trucks with ladders extended, an American flag suspended between 2 ladder trucks creating an archway over the cemetery entrance. Sarah Jenkins' service is equally attended. Her husband, David, speaks briefly, She was the strongest person I knew. She came back to work because she wanted to serve. She wanted Emma to grow up in a safe place. I don't understand why this happened. I don't know if I ever will. Chief Porter delivers the eulogy for both officers, calling them the best of us, taken too soon. Detective Salinas stands in the back of the church, watching. He does not cry. He takes notes. After the service, he returns to his office and spreads the evidence across his desk. Photographs of the crime scene, the partial fingerprint report, Gerald Mason's wallet, the driver's license photo, witness statements from Tyler Morrison and Stephanie Alcott, forensic reports from Laura Mendez. He writes in his notebook, "Mason, where is he? Wallet dropped deliberately? Fingerprint, why no match? Need more." At 6 p.m., Sergeant Carmichael enters the office. "Any progress?" Salinas shakes his head. "We have a name but no arrest. A fingerprint but no match. Witnesses who think they saw him but aren't sure. What do you need?" "I need Mason to make a mistake." But Gerald F. Mason does not make a mistake. He vanishes. On July 26, 1998, the media frenzy begins. Television news crews descend on Grants Pass, interviewing residents, filming the crime scene, broadcasting live reports from Northeast Beacon Drive. The story makes national news. 2 Oregon cops killed in ambush. CNN runs a segment. America's Most Wanted contacts the Grants Pass Police Department, offering to feature the case. Chief Porter agrees. On August 15, 1998, America's Most Wanted airs a 12-minute segment about the murders, including a reenactment of the traffic stop, interviews with Detective Salinas and Sergeant Carmichael, and a computer-generated age-enhanced image of Gerald F. Mason. The show provides a toll-free tip line. Within 48 hours, the tip line receives 347 calls. Detective Salinas and a team of 5 officers spend 3 weeks following up on every tip. A woman in Seattle reports seeing a man matching Mason's description at a Greyhound bus station. Salinas travels to Seattle, reviews security footage. The man is not Mason. A man in Reno, Nevada, calls to say his neighbor looks exactly like the guy on TV. Local police investigate. The neighbor is 73 years old, has lived in Reno for 40 years, and has no connection to Oregon. A waitress in Boise, Idaho, claims Mason ate breakfast at her diner on July 23. She provides a description. Gray hair, green jacket, quiet. Detective Salinas flies to Boise, interviews the waitress, reviews the diner's credit card receipts. No Gerald Mason. The waitress later admits she might have been mistaken. Every lead evaporates. By September 1998, the media coverage dwindles. The story slides from front pages to page 3, then page 7, then disappears entirely. A bank robbery in downtown Portland dominates Oregon news. The Grants Pass murders become yesterday's tragedy. But for Detective Salinas, the case is never over. On August 3, 1998, Laura Mendez returns to the crime scene on Northeast Beacon Drive for a second forensic sweep. She uses a metal detector to search for shell casings in a 500-yard radius around the traffic stop location. The metal detector beeps 47 times. Bottle caps, nails, coins, aluminum foil, a rusted car part. No shell casings. She collects soil samples from the area where the Honda was parked, sealing them in evidence jars labeled soil 1A through soil 8C. She photographs tire tracks on the shoulder of the road, creating plaster casts of the impressions. The tires match the stolen Honda, Goodyear Eagles, 195/60 R15 size, manufactured in 1991. No unusual wear patterns, no identifying marks. On August 7th, Mendez processes the stolen Honda in a climate-controlled evidence bay at the Oregon State Police Crime Lab in Salem. She removes the seats, vacuums the interior for hair and fiber, swabs the steering wheel, door handles, and gear shift for DNA. The vacuum bag yields 142 fibers, mostly cotton and polyester, consistent with clothing, and 6 hairs, 3 of which have intact follicles suitable for DNA extraction. Using 1998 technology, short tandem repeat, STR, analysis with 13 loci markers, The lab extracts DNA profiles from the 3 hairs. 2 profiles match the teenage victims, Tyler Morrison and Stephanie Alcott, consistent with their earlier presence in the vehicle. The 3rd profile is unknown. Male, Caucasian ancestry markers. No match in the FBI's combined DNA index system, CODIS, which contains approximately 250,000 profiles in 1998. The profile is labeled Unknown Male Subject 1 and stored in the evidence file. Mendez also swabs the driver's side door handle, where the partial fingerprint was found. Under UV light, she discovers a second print, this one more complete, approximately 12 ridge characteristics visible. She lifts the print and submits it to AFIS for comparison. On August 12, 1998, AFIS returns the result. No match found. Detective Salinas receives the report at his desk. He stares at the words "no match found" and underlines them 3 times with a red pen. He writes in his notebook, 2 prints. No match. Mason never arrested equals no prints in system. Need to find Mason. Get his prints. Compare manually. But finding Gerald F. Mason proves impossible. On August 20, 1998, Detective Salinas identifies 4 persons of interest in the case, beginning with individuals connected to the stolen Honda and the assault on Tyler Morrison and Stephanie Alcott. Person of interest number 1. Derek Highland, 34, ex-boyfriend of Claire Morrison, Tyler's mother. Salinas interviews Highland at the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. Highland, a construction worker, admits he and Claire ended their relationship on bad terms in June 1998, but denies any involvement in the assault or the murders. Where were you on July 21st between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m.? Salinas asks. At home, watching TV. Anyone with you? My roommate, Kevin. Kevin Marsh. Salinas interviews Kevin Marsh, 32, who confirms Highland was home watching a Mariners game. Salinas requests a DNA sample. Highland consents. The DNA profile does not match unknown male subject 1 from the Honda. Person of interest number 2. Anthony Delgado, 29, former employee of Mason's Auto Repair in Medford. Salinas learns that Gerald Mason owned and operated Mason's Auto Repair from 1985 to 1996, employing 3 mechanics, including Anthony Delgado. Salinas interviews Delgado at his current workplace, Jiffy Lube on Riverside Avenue. Did you know Gerald Mason? Salinas asks. Yeah, I worked for him for 6 years. He was a good boss. Paid on time, treated us fair. When was the last time you saw him? Maybe a year ago? Year and a half? I ran into him at the grocery store. Did he seem different? Angry? Unstable? No. He seemed normal. Just an old guy buying milk. Where were you on July 21st between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m.? At my girlfriend's place. We were watching a movie. Titanic, I think. Salinas confirms the alibi with Delgado's girlfriend. Delgado consents to a DNA sample. No match. Person of interest number 3, Carl Ventura, 47, owner of the Texaco station on Northeast Beacon Drive, where the stolen Honda was last seen before the traffic stop. Salinas interviews Ventura in the office of the Texaco station. Ventura, a heavy-set man with graying hair and a limp from a childhood accident, says he was working the register on the evening of July 21st. Did you see the blue Honda? Salinas asks. Yeah, it pulled in around 8:40, maybe 8:45. Parked at pump 3. Guy got out, looked around, got back in, drove off. Can you describe him? Old. Gray hair. Green jacket. Did he buy gas? No. Just sat there for a minute, then left. Did you see the police cruiser follow him? Not until after he left. Then I heard sirens. Did you see where he went after the shooting? No. I stayed inside. I didn't want to get involved. Salinas reviews the Texaco's security camera footage. The tape shows the Honda at pump 3 for 87 seconds. The driver, visible only in profile, matches the general description of Gerald Mason. Gray hair, green jacket, approximately 5 feet 10 inches. But the resolution is poor 240p VHS tape, and facial features are indistinguishable. Salinas requests a DNA sample from Ventura to rule him out as a contamination source. The sample does not match unknown male subject 1. Person of interest number 4, Raymond Ray Teller, 52. A drifter with a history of assault charges. Spotted near Riverside Park on July 21. A witness, Margaret Hollis, 61. Reports seeing a man matching Teller's description. Tall, thin, unkempt, loitering near Riverside Park on the afternoon of July 21. Salinas locates Teller at a homeless encampment under the Caveman Bridge on the Rogue River. Teller, barefoot and wearing a stained denim jacket, denies any involvement. "I didn't do nothing. I was fishing under the bridge all day. Anyone see you? Maybe. I don't know. I keep to myself." Salinas requests a DNA sample. Teller initially refuses, then consents after Salinas explains he's trying to rule him out, not implicate him. The DNA does not match unknown male subject 1. By September 15, 1998, all 4 persons of interest have been cleared. Detective Salinas updates his notebook. For suspects. For dead ends. Mason is the key. Where is Mason? On October 1, 1998, the Grants Pass Daily Courier runs a follow-up story. Police seek leads in double homicide. The article quotes Chief Porter. "We remain committed to solving this case. We will not rest until the person responsible is brought to justice." But the article is buried on page 6, between an ad for a furniture sale and a story about the high school football team. On November 5, 1998, a task force meeting is held at the Grants Pass Police Department. Attending, Detective Salinas, Sergeant Carmichael, Chief Porter, Oregon State Police Lieutenant Harold Voss, and FBI Special Agent Karen Delisle. They review the evidence. Fingerprints with no match, DNA with no match, a suspect with no criminal history and no known location. "What do we have?" Lieutenant Voss asks. "Not enough," Salinas says. "Do we think Mason is alive?" "I don't know. He'd be 64. He could be anywhere. Or he could be dead," Agent Delisle suggests. "Heart attack, car accident, something unrelated. We might never find him." Salinas shakes his head. "He's alive. I can feel it." "Feelings don't close cases," Voss says. The meeting adjourns with no new leads. On December 31, 1998, the case is officially reclassified as cold case, pending investigation. The evidence, 14 boxes containing forensic samples, photographs, witness statements, and the stolen Honda itself, is transferred to a climate-controlled vault in the basement of the Josephine County Courthouse. Each box is labeled with a red sticker, Higgins/Jenkins double homicide, July 21, 1998. Detective Salinas does not accept the reclassification. He keeps a copy of Gerald Mason's driver's license photo in his wallet, along with a handwritten note. Black Honda. Plate CB 9572. Green jacket. 3 shots each. Mason. ***. He drives past Northeast Beacon Drive once a week, parking where Unit 7 parked, staring at the empty pavement where Mark and Sarah died. He visits Mason's abandoned apartment in Medford every 6 months, checking for signs of occupancy. He runs Gerald Mason's name through national databases quarterly, searching for a Social Security payment, a traffic ticket, a hospital admission. Nothing. In 2002, Detective Salinas retires from the Grants Pass Police Department after 25 years of service. At his retirement party, held at the Elks Lodge, he gives a brief speech. "I've closed 87 cases in my career. 87. But the one that matters most is still open. If anyone remembers me, I hope it's for this. I never stopped looking." He keeps the photo of Gerald Mason in his wallet. 2000 * Angela Higgins, Mark's widow, remarries and moves to Eugene, Oregon. She gives birth to a son. Naming him Mark Jr., she does not speak publicly about the murders. 2003 * Sarah Jenkins' daughter, Emma, turns 5 years old. Her father, David, has left Grants Pass, relocating to Bend, Oregon, where he works as an electrician. Emma has no memory of her mother. 2005 *, the Grants Pass Police Department holds a memorial ceremony on the 7th anniversary of the murders. Approximately 50 people attend, including Patricia Whitmore, Sarah's mother, who places white daisies at a small granite marker on Northeast Beacon Drive inscribed, "In memory of officers Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins. July 21, 1998. Never forgotten." ***. 2008 *, the stolen Honda, held in evidence for 10 years, is finally released and sold at a police auction. The vehicle is purchased by a salvage yard in Medford and dismantled for parts. Before the sale, crime lab technician Laura Mendez, now 46 and promoted to supervisor, removes the steering wheel and door panels, preserving them in sealed evidence bags. 2010 * Detective Robert Salinas, now 53 and retired, receives a call from a woman in Tacoma, Washington, claiming she saw Gerald Mason at a Fred Meyer grocery store. Salinas drives to Tacoma at his own expense, reviews security footage, and determines the man is not Mason. He drives home in silence. 2013 * the Grants Pass Daily Courier runs a 15th anniversary retrospective. 15 years later, the unsolved murders that haunt Grants Pass. The article includes interviews with retired Chief Porter, now 69, and Sergeant Carmichael, now 63. Both express frustration that the case remains unsolved. The article ends, "Somewhere, someone knows what happened, and we're still waiting for that call." The call does not come. 2015 * Patricia Whitmore, Sarah's mother, dies at age 73 from complications related to pneumonia. In her obituary, it is noted that she visited the memorial on Northeast Beacon Drive every year on July 21, placing white daisies and sitting in silence for exactly 1 hour. 2018 * the case is 20 years old. A new generation of Grants Pass residents has no memory of Mark Higgins or Sarah Jenkins. The memorial marker on Northeast Beacon Drive is weathered, the inscription fading. The tire shop that once stood nearby has been demolished and replaced by a Dollar General. But in the basement of the Josephine County Courthouse, 14 red-labeled boxes remain undisturbed in the climate-controlled vault. Pale fluorescent lights bathe rows of iron shelves. Dust gathers on cardboard. Inside the boxes, evidence waits. Fingerprints, DNA samples, photographs, a steering wheel, a driver's license photo of a man who vanished into the American landscape and never reappeared. The case is paused. But the obsession is not. On January 15, 2023, nearly 25 years after the murders, Lieutenant Carla Mendez, 42, is promoted to head of the Josephine County Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit, a newly established division funded by a state grant focused on solving unsolved homicides using emerging forensic technologies. Mendez, a former Oregon State Police criminal investigator specializing in DNA evidence, has no connection to the Higgins/Jenkins case except a professional curiosity and a mandate to reopen Oregon's most notorious cold cases. Her first action: request the evidence files from the vault. On January 23, 2023, Mendez descends the stairs to the basement of the Josephine County Courthouse, accompanied by evidence custodian Brian Kelso, 58, who has worked in the courthouse for 31 years. Kelso unlocks the vault door, a heavy steel slab requiring a key and a combination code, and pulls it open with a metallic groan. The air inside smells musty, like old paper and concrete. Kelso walks to a shelf labeled 1998 Homicides and removes 14 boxes, stacking them on a rolling cart. The red labels are faded but legible. Higgins/Jenkins double homicide, July 21, 1998. Mendez wheels the cart to her office on the second floor, a small room with a single window overlooking the Rogue River. She opens the first box. Inside, crime scene photographs, still vivid after 25 years. She sees Mark Higgins on the pavement, Sarah Jenkins beside the Honda, blood pooled black under emergency lights. She has seen crime scene photos before, hundreds of them. But something about these images unsettles her. 2 officers, ambushed, executed. No defensive wounds, no fired shots, just death quick and cold. She opens the second box. Inside, forensic reports from Laura Mendez, no relation, dated August 1998. She reads the DNA analysis. 3 hair follicles recovered from the Honda. 1 profile labeled unknown male subject 1. Male Caucasian ancestry markers. No match in Cody's. She opens the 3rd box. Inside, evidence bags. She removes a sealed bag labeled evidence 1A. Fingerprint, steering wheel. The fingerprint card inside is yellowed but intact. She holds it up to the light. 8 ridge characteristics visible. Partial but usable. She opens the 4th box. Inside, a clear evidence bag labeled evidence 6D wallet, Gerald F. Mason. She removes the wallet, opens it, and examines the driver's license. Gerald Fighton Mason, born January 18, 1934. He would be 89 years old now if he's still alive. Mendez makes a note in her digital case file. Priority. Locate Gerald F. Mason. Extract DNA. Compare to unknown male subject 1. Asterisk asterisk. She spends the next 3 days reading every page in the 14 boxes. Witness statements, forensic reports, task force meeting notes, tips from America's Most Wanted, dead-end leads. She reads Detective Salinas's handwritten notes, his frustration evident in the margins. Where is he? Why no prints? Mason key to everything. On January 27, 2023, Mendez calls Robert Salinas. He is 76 years old now, living in Medford in a small house on Hillcrest Road, the same house where he lived when the murders occurred. The phone rings 4 times before he answers. Hello, Mr. Salinas. This is Lieutenant Carla Mendez with the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. I'm calling about the Higgins/Jenkins case. A long silence. Are you reopening it? His voice is steady, measured, exactly as described in the reports. Yes, I've been reviewing the evidence. I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to consult. Another silence. I've been waiting 25 years for this call, Salinas says. On February 3, 2023, Lieutenant Mendez meets with Dr. Angela Torres, 51, Director of the Oregon State Police Forensic Services Division, at the Crime Lab in Salem. Dr. Torres specializes in forensic DNA analysis and has pioneered the use of next-generation sequencing, NGS, and forensic genetic genealogy, FGG, to solve cold cases. I need to re-examine DNA evidence from a 1998 case, Mendez says, handing Torres a file folder. 3 hair samples recovered from a vehicle. 1 profile extracted in 1998, male, no match in Cody's. I want to know if you can extract a more complete profile using current technology. Torres opens the folder, reads the forensic report, and nods. STR analysis in 1998 used 13 loci. We now use 20 loci, and NGS can map the entire genome if enough DNA is present. Even degraded samples can yield usable profiles. How long will it take? 2 weeks for extraction and sequencing. If we get a full profile, I'll upload it to Cody's. If there's no match, we can try forensic genetic genealogy. What's that? We upload the DNA profile to public genealogy databases, GEDmatch, Family Tree DNA, and build a family tree. If the suspect has relatives who've submitted their DNA for ancestry testing, we can identify him through genetic triangulation. Mendez leans forward. How accurate is it? Very. It's how we caught the Golden State Killer in 2018. The suspect's DNA didn't match anyone in Cody's, but his 3rd cousins had uploaded their DNA to GEDmatch. We built a tree, narrowed it down, and made an arrest. How many cases have been solved this way? Over 500 since 2018. Mendez hands Torres 3 evidence bags containing the hair samples. Let's try. On February 6, 2023, the evidence bags are opened in a sterile laboratory at the Oregon State Police Crime Lab technician Michael Tran, 34, wearing a full-body Tyvek suit, gloves, and a mask, removes the 3 hair samples from their 25-year-old sealed containers and places them under a microscope. The hairs are fragile, brittle, the follicles shriveled but intact. Tran uses a ceramic knife to scrape cells from the follicles, transferring them to a microcentrifuge tube containing a lysis buffer, a solution that breaks down cell membranes to release DNA. The tube is placed in a thermal cycler, heated to 56 degrees Celsius for 2 hours, then cooled to 4 degrees Celsius. The DNA, if present, will dissolve into the buffer. On February 8th, Tran uses a Chagan DNA extraction kit to isolate the DNA from the buffer, removing proteins, lipids, and other cellular debris. The purified DNA is quantified using a spectrophotometer. Result: 0.8 nanograms of DNA recovered, barely enough for analysis. Tran proceeds with next-generation sequencing, a technique that amplifies the DNA using polymerase chain reaction, PCR, creating millions of copies from the tiny original sample. The amplified DNA is loaded onto an aluminum MeSeq sequencer, a machine the size of a microwave that uses fluorescent markers to read the DNA's base pairs A, T, C, G1 at a time. The sequencing takes 36 hours. On February 10, 2023, Dr. Torres reviews the results on her computer screen. The sequencer has successfully mapped 3.2 billion base pairs, a complete human genome. The profile is male, Caucasian ancestry markers confirmed. No match in CODIs. But the profile is now usable for forensic genetic genealogy. Dr. Torres exports the DNA profile to a file format compatible with GEDmatch, a public genealogy database containing DNA profiles from 1.3 million users who voluntarily submitted samples to trace their ancestry. She uploads the file on February 11, 2023, at 2:17 p.m. The database begins searching. On February 13, 2023, at 9:04 a.m., Dr. Torres receives an email notification from GEDmatch. DNA match found, shared CM, 115, estimated relationship, third cousin. The match is a woman named Catherine Hall, 67, from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Catherine submitted her DNA to GEDmatch in 2019 to trace her family history. She shares 115 centimorgans, cm, of DNA with unknown male subject 1, approximately 0.9% of the total genome, indicating a shared ancestor approximately 4 generations back, consistent with third cousins. Dr. Torres calls Lieutenant Mendez. "We have a hit." Mendez drives to Salem immediately. In Dr. Torres's office, they review the match on the computer screen. "What do we do now?" Mendez asks. "We build a family tree," Torres says. "We start with Catherine Hall, trace her ancestry back to the shared ancestor, then forward through all descendants. One of those descendants is our suspect." Torres contacts Barbara Klein, 59, a forensic genetic genealogist based in Sacramento, California, who specializes in constructing family trees from DNA matches. Klein agrees to take the case pro bono. Over the next 3 weeks, Klein works 12-hour days using online genealogy databases, Ancestry.com, Family Search, newspaper archives, census records, birth certificates, marriage licenses, to map Catherine Hall's family tree. She identifies the shared ancestor, a man named Elijah Fighton, born in 1862 in Bakersfield, California. Elijah had 7 children. Catherine Hall descends from one branch. The suspect descends from another. Klein traces each branch forward through 5 generations, identifying over 200 individuals. She filters the list. Males only, DNA profile is male. Born between 1920 and 1950, to be 64 years old in 1998. Living or deceased after July 21, 1998. Suspect must have been alive at time of murders. Connections to Oregon or Northern California. Crime occurred in Oregon. Suspect had ties to Medford. The filter narrows the list to 14 individuals. Klein cross-references each name with public records, Social Security Death Index, property records, DMV databases, court records. By March 8, 2023, she has eliminated 13 of the 14 names. Most are deceased. 2 have alibis verified through family interviews. 1 is female, clerical error in records. 1 name remains. Gerald Fighton Mason, born January 18, 1934, in Bakersfield, California. Klein sends her findings to Dr. Torres on March 10, 2023. Torres forwards them to Lieutenant Mendez. Mendez reads the report in her office, heart pounding. She picks up the phone and calls Robert Salinas. "We found him," she says. On March 12, 2023, Lieutenant Mendez and Detective Robert Salinas, now 76 years old but serving as a volunteer consultant, meet at the Josephine County Sheriff's Office to review the genealogy report. Gerald Fighton Mason, Mendez reads aloud. Born January 18, 1934, in Bakersfield, California. Married to Linda Mason, née Cartwright, in 1956. 2 children, Michael Mason, born 1958, and Jennifer Mason, born 1960. Moved to Medford, Oregon, in 1979. Owned Mason's Auto Repair from 1985 to 1996. Last known address, 2847, Crater Lake Avenue, Apartment 12, Medford. Salinas nods slowly. That's the address from 1998. We searched it. He was gone. Where did he go? Mendez pulls up Oregon DMV records on her laptop. No driver's license renewed after 1998. No vehicle registrations. No property tax records. No Social Security payments. He's either dead or living off the grid. He's alive, Salinas says. I can feel it. Mendez cross-references Gerald Mason's name with the Social Security Death Index. No record. She searches obituaries for Michael Mason and Jennifer Mason, Gerald's children. Michael Mason died in 2017 in Spokane, Washington. Obituary mentions his father, Gerald, preceded him in death, but there is no death certificate for Gerald Mason in Washington, Oregon, or California. She searches Jennifer Mason. No obituary. Current address, Tucson, Arizona. On March 15, 2023, Mendez calls Jennifer Mason, now 63, at her home in Tucson. Ms. Mason, this is Lieutenant Carla Mendez with the Josephine County Sheriff's Office in Oregon. I'm investigating a cold case from 1998, and I need to ask you about your father, Gerald Mason. A long pause. My father is dead, Jennifer says. When did he die? I don't know. He disappeared in 1998. We never saw him again. Did you report him missing? No. He just left. We thought he wanted to be alone. Do you have any idea where he might have gone? No. We looked for him for years. We gave up. Mendez pauses. Ms. Mason, I need to be direct with you. We have evidence connecting your father to the murders of 2 police officers in Grants Pass, Oregon, on July 21, 1998. Another long pause. I don't believe that, Jennifer says, her voice shaking. My father was a good man. He wouldn't hurt anyone. I understand this is difficult, but I need your help. Do you have any items that might contain your father's DNA? A hairbrush, a toothbrush, clothing? No. We cleaned out his apartment in 1999. Everything was donated or thrown away. Do you know anyone who might have something? No. I'm sorry. I can't help you. The call ends. Mendez sits in silence, staring at her notes. She calls Salinas. We need Mason's DNA to confirm the match, she says. But we don't have Mason, and we don't have his DNA. Then we find him, Salinas says. On March 20, 2023, Mendez files a request with the FBI to add Gerald F. Mason to the National Crime Information Center, NCIC, database as a wanted fugitive in connection with the Higgins/Jenkins double homicide. The FBI approves the request on March 22. Mason's name, date of birth, physical description, and a 1998 driver's license photo are entered into the system, visible to law enforcement agencies nationwide. On March 25, Mendez receives a call from the Riverside County Sheriff's Office in California. A deputy named Luis Herrera reports that a man matching Gerald Mason's description was arrested for shoplifting at a Walmart in Palm Desert on March 23. The man gave the name Gerald Foster, but had no identification. Mendez drives to Palm Desert, an 8-hour trip, and arrives at the Riverside County Jail on March 26. She is escorted to an interview room where the shoplifter, a frail man with thinning white hair and a weathered face, sits at a metal table. Are you Gerald Mason? Mendez asks. The man shakes his head. My name is Gerald Foster. Can you prove that? No. I lost my ID. Where were you born? Bakersfield. Mendez's pulse quickens. What year? 1941. She shows him the 1998 driver's license photo of Gerald Mason. Is this you? The man squints at the photo. No, that's not me. Mendez requests a DNA sample. The man refuses. Without probable cause, she cannot compel him. She contacts the Riverside County District Attorney's Office, requesting a court order. The order is denied. Shoplifting does not constitute probable cause for DNA collection in a murder case. The man is released on March 27th. Mendez follows him from the jail to a homeless encampment under a freeway overpass. She watches him for 2 hours. He does not resemble the 1998 photo of Gerald Mason. She returns to Oregon. Dead end. On April 10, 2023, Lieutenant Mendez decides to take a different approach. A trash pull. If Gerald Mason is alive, he is generating waste. Discarded cups, cigarette butts, tissues that might contain DNA. But first, she needs to locate him. She assigns a team of 2 detectives to conduct a nationwide search for Gerald Fighton Mason using every available database. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, IRS, veterans records, utility bills, phone records. The search takes 3 weeks. On May 2, 2023, Detective Joshua Park, 38, reports a potential hit. A utility bill for a small house in Merrill, Oregon, a town of 845 people in Klamath County, 140 miles east of Grants Pass. The bill is in the name G. Mason, with a forwarding address from Medford. Mendez and Salinas drive to Merrill on May 4, 2023. The house is a single-story structure with faded blue siding, located on a dirt road surrounded by farmland. A rusted pickup truck sits in the driveway. No one answers the door. They speak with a neighbor, Donald Pritchard, 71, who lives across the road. Do you know the man who lives here? Mendez asks. Gerald? Yeah, he's been here about 20 years. Keeps to himself. Quiet guy. What's his last name? Mason, I think. Mendez's breath catches. What does he look like? Old. Gray hair. Maybe 90. Have you seen him recently? Last week. He was getting his mail. Mendez and Salinas return to the house and wait. At 4:37 p.m., a man pulls into the driveway in the rusted pickup truck. He is elderly, thin, with white hair and a deeply lined face. He steps out of the truck slowly using a cane. Mendez approaches. Excuse me, sir. Are you Gerald Mason? The man stops. He stares at Mendez, then at Salinas. Who's asking? His voice is hoarse, barely above a whisper. Lieutenant Carla Mendez, Josephine County Sheriff's Office. This is Robert Salinas, retired detective. We're investigating a case from 1998. The man's face does not change. I don't know anything about any case. Were you living in Medford in 1998? Maybe. I don't remember. Did you own a vehicle in 1998? No. Were you in Grants Pass on July 21, 1998? The man looks down at the ground. I don't remember. Mendez steps closer. Mr. Mason, I need to ask you to come with us to answer some questions. The man shakes his head. I'm not going anywhere. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. The man looks up, his eyes, pale blue, rimmed with red, locking onto Mendez's. I've been waiting for this for 25 years. On May 5, 2023, at 6:15 a.m., 3 unmarked SUVs from the Josephine County Sheriff's Office, the Oregon State Police, and the FBI roll silently into the dirt driveway of the house in Merrill, Oregon. The sky is overcast, the temperature 52 degrees Fahrenheit. The air smells of rain. Lieutenant Carla Mendez, Detective Joshua Park, Detective Robert Salinas, Consultant, FBI Special Agent Karen Delisle, now 58 and promoted to Supervisory Special Agent, and 6 uniformed officers approach the front door. Mendez knocks. Gerald F. Mason, 89 years old, opens the door. He is wearing a gray t-shirt, brown corduroy pants, and no shoes. His hands tremble slightly. He looks at Mendez and nods. "Gerald Fighton Mason," Mendez says. "You are under arrest for the murders of Officer Mark Higgins and Officer Sarah Jenkins on July 21, 1998, in Grants Pass, Oregon." Mason does not resist. He holds out his wrists. Detective Park places handcuffs on him. Gently, because Mason's wrists are thin and fragile, the skin papery. "Do you understand your rights?" Mendez asks. Mason nods. "I understand." He is escorted to one of the SUVs and driven to the Josephine County Jail in Grants Pass. Arriving at 9:47 a.m., he is fingerprinted, photographed, and placed in a holding cell. At 11 a.m., Mendez and Salinas interview him in an interrogation room. A small, windowless space with a metal table, 3 chairs, and a video camera mounted in the corner. "Why did you do it?" Mendez asks. Mason stares at the table. He does not speak for a full minute. Then, "I was scared." "Scared of what?" "Of going back to prison." "You've never been to prison. You have no criminal record." Mason looks up. His eyes are wet. "Not under this name." Salinas leans forward. "What's your real name?" Mason closes his eyes. "My real name is Gerald Cartwright. I was born in 1934 in Bakersfield. In 1952, when I was 18, I robbed a liquor store in Fresno. I shot the clerk. He didn't die, but I got 15 years. I served 10, got out in 1962. Changed my name to Gerald Mason, moved to Oregon, started over. Got married, had kids, ran a business. I thought I'd left it all behind. What happened in 1998? I was at the park, Riverside Park. I saw those 2 kids with the car. I needed a car. I took it. I didn't mean to hurt them. I just needed the car." "Why?" "I was going to leave. Start over again. I was tired of hiding." "Why did you kill the officers?" Mason's voice drops to a whisper. "When they pulled me over, I saw the uniform. I saw the gun. I thought they knew. I thought they were going to take me back. Panicked. I had a gun in the car, old .45 I'd kept from the robbery in '52. I grabbed it. I shot them. I didn't think. I just shot." Salinas speaks, his voice steady. "What did you do with the gun?" "Threw it in the Rogue River. Off the Caveman Bridge." "Why did you drop your wallet?" "I didn't mean to. It fell out of my pocket when I ran." "Where did you go after the shooting?" "I drove south, ditched the car in Medford, near my apartment. Walked to a bus station. Took a bus to Klamath Falls, then to Merrill. I've been there ever since." "Did you ever think about turning yourself in?" Mason nods. "Every day. But I'm a coward. I was more afraid of dying in prison than living with what I did." The interview ends at 12:47 p.m. Mason is returned to his cell. Mendez and Salinas walk outside into the parking lot. Salinas, tears streaming down his face, says, 25 years. 25 years I've been waiting to hear those words." Mendez puts a hand on his shoulder. "You never gave up." "No," Salinas says. "I never did." On May 6, 2023, a team of divers from the Oregon State Police search the Rogue River beneath the Caveman Bridge. After 3 hours, they recover a rusted .45 caliber M1911 pistol from the riverbed, 25 feet below the surface. Ballistics testing confirms the weapon matches the bullets extracted from Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins during their autopsies in 1998. On May 7, 2023, DNA samples are collected from Gerald Mason via buccal swab. The profile matches unknown male subject 1 from the 1998 Honda with 99.99% certainty. On May 10, 2023, the Josephine County District Attorney's Office files formal charges: 2 counts of first-degree murder, 2 counts of aggravated assault on a peace officer, 1 count of theft, stolen vehicle, and 1 count of assault, the teenagers at Riverside Park. Mason's public defender advises him to plead not guilty. Mason refuses. On May 15, 2023, Gerald Mason appears in Josephine County Circuit Court and pleads guilty to all charges. The trial, technically a sentencing hearing, since Mason pleaded guilty, begins on July 18, 2023, in Josephine County Circuit Court, presided over by Judge Martin Collier, 62. The courtroom is packed. Reporters, police officers, family members, curious citizens. Angela Higgins, now 49 and remarried, sits in the front row beside her son, Mark Jr., 21. Emma Jenkins, now 25, sits with her father, David, 56. The prosecution presents evidence. Crime scene photographs, forensic reports, Mason's confession, the recovered .45 pistol. The defense offers no rebuttal. Mason waived his right to a defense. On July 20, 2023, Mason is given the opportunity to address the court. He stands, leaning on a cane, his voice barely audible. I destroyed 2 families. I took 2 lives. I ran for 25 years, and I lived every day knowing what I'd done. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just want to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Judge Collier sentences him to 2 consecutive life terms without the possibility of parole. At 89 years old, Mason will die in prison. On July 21, 2023, the 25th anniversary of the murders, a new memorial ceremony is held on Northeast Beacon Drive. Over 300 people attend, including Lieutenant Carla Mendez, Detective Robert Salinas, retired Chief Raymond Porter, and Angela Higgins. Emma Jenkins speaks publicly for the first time. My mother died when I was 4 months old. I have no memory of her, but I know she was brave. I know she loved me, and I know that today, finally, there is justice. Patricia Whitmore's name is added to the granite memorial marker beneath Sarah's. In loving memory of Patricia Whitmore, 1942 to 2015. She never stopped believing. ***. Detective Robert Salinas, now 76, removes the photograph of Gerald Mason from his wallet and places it at the base of the memorial. He stands in silence for a long time, then turns and walks away. Later that evening, Salinas sits on his porch in Medford, watching the sunset over the Rogue Valley. His phone rings. It's Lieutenant Mendez. "How are you feeling?" she asks. "Tired," he says, "but complete. For the first time in 25 years, I feel complete." "You never gave up." "No, because they deserved justice. And now they have it." The call ends. Salinas sits in silence, listening to the wind move through the Douglas firs, the same wind that blew across Northeast Beacon Drive on July 21, 1998, the same wind that carried away 2 lives and left a community in mourning for a quarter of a century. In the Franklin Mountains, where no desert stretches but where the Rogue River cuts through ancient stone, the water still flows, constant, indifferent, patient. And on a quiet stretch of Northeast Beacon Drive, where 2 officers fell, a granite marker stands, its inscription now complete. Officers Mark Higgins and Sarah Jenkins. July 21, 1998. Never forgotten. Justice served. July 20, 2023. The case is closed. The obsession is over. The wait is finished. After 25 years, the darkness has finally lifted, and in its place, light, hard-won and long-awaited, illuminating the truth that time may bury secrets, but justice, patient, persistent, and unyielding, will always find its way home.